So France and Norway both qualified for the knockout stage, both getting themselves out of Group I. France yesterday were unbelievable again. The attack was firing, everyone was on top of their game and didn't even give Iraq a look in. Iraq in that last game also lost by by a 3 goal margin, 4-1 to Norway, but that didn't tell the full story. That was their scoreline was somewhat harsh on them that day. They got into a lot of good areas. They made it a real contest. It was a close game up until the final sort of 25, 20 minutes or so, where they started to really pull clear Norway. But it was, close for a while, and they equalised as well in that first half. So, but it wasn't like that at all yesterday. It was all France from minute one. I seem to remember, I only really specifically remember like one counter attack from Iraq when it was in that first half, and in the end, in the whole game, no shots on target, and that tells the full story. That does tell the story of this game. Really, it was all France, sheer domination from France. Iraq couldn't even get a look in, and yeah, well, that is them. That is their. That was sorry, that was like I say, France as well. That they're there's been a lot of talk, a lot's been made about, particularly the sort of relationship between Mbappe and Dembele. Is there a problem there? They kind of both want the same position because Mbappe is such a key figure, such a big figure, so influential in that France squad. Is it almost a negative thing on the dressing room? Is he like does he kind of almost force Dembele out of his preferred position? But the way they played yesterday, the whole attack seems to be playing really well as a team. Bouncing off of each other really well. I think there's so much speed there. I think there's so much quality, so much ability, and in terms of how good the attack is for France, I think it's probably the best in the tournament. It's probably the best that anyone's got, and obviously other areas of the France team are really strong with ridiculous amount of depth as well. But it's the attack where I think will be worrying a lot of oppositions. I mean, the players you just got on the bench yesterday, Desadoy on the bench. I mean, that just says it all really. And like sometimes we see Bacola on the bench or Cherky, one of them was usually on the bench, and well, Mbappe, whether he has always behaved particularly brilliant or not at club levels, another sort of discussion. But for France, he's always there. He always gives 110%. He never lets France down. He always turns up. I know he had that horrible penalty miss a couple of Euros ago, but as in he's always has the right. In my eyes, from what I've seen, he certainly looks like he has the right, mentality. At least when he puts that France shirt on, there might be stuff that's happened off the pitch, but it does look like, specifically in this tournament, they've got top manager under Deschamps with Deschamps as well. So I do think when he puts the France kit on, he does seem to become a different player and find another level. We know of his quality, we know of his ability, but for France, he truly is one of the best. And you should just look at his World Cup performances so far. He's been doing it again this time around, and we see him have chances early on, and one of them goes in 15 minutes in, and I was impressed with a lot of France players yesterday. I thought the whole team did really well. I thought Rabiot maybe a bit fortunate to come away unscathed from that. No yellow card, no nothing for the challenge. I think it's a little bit late. I mean, you could say he took a bit of the ball. Was it enough of the ball? It obviously was deemed enough of the ball in the end. But yeah, I mean, France all over him, pushing for the second goal, annihilating him really. And then the rain comes. Obviously, this game being played was being played in Philadelphia, and if there's a heavy rain, and because there's like a storm, there's like some sort of rule as well. If there's any sort of strike of lightning, then the game has to be postponed, and there has to be like a half-hour gap between them, or and there's stuff like this. There's a massive delay, almost 2 hours half time. There's almost half time, almost 2 hours stoppage, and it was just, it was wondering if we get the game finished. The rain was so heavy in that first half, but I think they probably did the right thing in the second half, not doing the drinks break, the hydration break. There's been a lot made about this. I mean, I'm not sure everyone realises. I mean, some people maybe don't realise quite how hot it gets in America in the summers, particularly along that east coast, places like New York, Boston, Philadelphia, where this game was, where a lot of these games are being played in the central part. So in some games, in some of the conditions we've seen in some games, the drinks breaks are necessary there for safety reasons, first and foremost, but also for the quality of football that we're seeing on show as well. They need to do this, but there is games like yesterday where it just poured it down, and it's not those sort of conditions where it's not necessary. So they made the right call there to not do it, and I think that's what a lot of people want. And I don't really understand why they've not taken that approach, why they've not done it like a game by game thing. But either way, no, we didn't have any of that in the second half. But what we did have was more of the same from France. Iraq not getting a look in France, dominating the game and just putting them to the sword. And they could have had more goals as well. They could have had something more. That was the scary thing about this France team, is they almost looked like they was holding back a bit. It was so easy for them. They made it look so easy. They just cruised to victory, and they had so many good chances that it could have been more goals. And Mbappe gets his second, and then Dembele does get his goal as well. And from there, France, they just cruised to victory. It has to be said, they were all over them yesterday, and at the moment they are certainly one of the favourites for this World Cup, and they're one of the big teams that has really turned up so far. And out of all the teams so far, they look one of the most efficient, one of the most professional, one of the most experienced, one of the scariest teams in this World Cup. Is without doubt France. If things go, if it's there, you could make a case, you could make a strong argument for them being able to beat everyone in this tournament. That's why they have got to be one of the favourites. They are a lot of people's favourite for this tournament. I very nearly did predict them. If you had asked, if I'd done I did for a while. I did think was going to predict them for the winners of this. I went for Spain in the end, but France, equal, everything that they've got to offer, it really could be them as well. But as for the other game, so France qualified for the knockout stage. Also qualified for the knockout stage though. It's Norway. Really impressed with Norway this tournament. I did pick them out as a potential kind of dark horse. I think this team could go really far. I think they've got a lot of attacking quality. I think they're really high on confidence. I think they've taken the qualifying form where they battered everyone in the qualifying group, and they've really kind of built on that, and they've come into this game. And people have been doubtful up to now, but I think yesterday they beat the Senegal side that, although seems not quite right with Senegal, and they do seem to make silly mistakes, they do seem to not take advantage, but they are on top in games. What you can't deny about this Senegal team is they've got top players, and players that are playing at the top level in all across the pitch, and they've got a lot of quality. And this is probably they've got a lot of tournament experience. They're one of the African Cup of Nations champions technically. Speaking, they obviously did win the final on the day and when it was finished, but. And there's players that have won it in there before in this squad. They're very certainly one of the top best looking teams they've probably ever had as well. And you say the same about Norway. This is the best Norway team ever. But Senegal, they're no mugs. So this is impressive from Norway, and felt like they were the dominant team. It was all over really in the first half. It was all them, really all Norway. Felt like that goal was coming. It did come just before half time, and they're certainly good value for the lead, I'd say, in that first half. I didn't get to see this game live, but from what I've seen, highlights and stuff, it certainly looked like Norway was on top in that first half. And in the second half, Senegal, they do, this is where they play a real part, but it's going to be tough. I would expect them to beat Iraq, but that last game, but that really will go down to the wire. Then it'll all depend on other results. Senegal, their fate now is out of their hands, whether they can go through as a third place or not. And Norway and France, what a game that's going to be. The attacking football that's going to be on display in that game to top the group. That's going to be one massive game. That's going to be such an exciting game. But back to this game, Haaland again in the second half. And Senegal, they can't do this. This is where they play right into their hands when they made the mistake, which ultimately led to them Norway to be able to get through. Balls of Haaland from a position where he just doesn't miss. And then from there it's 2-0. It's a long way back for Senegal. Norway in a very strong position, convincingly the better side at this point in the game. But they do fight, Senegal. Ismail Assar, he pulls one back and they show some fight. But again, they get themselves the 2-goal lead is just almost restored pretty quickly, almost instantly actually. Like 5 minutes, Haaland again with his brace. That's 5 goals now for Haaland this tournament. He's going to give Messi like a real race for this golden boot by the looks of it. Both of them on 5 goals. Them two very much rivaling each other in that department at the moment. In terms of out-and-out goal scorers, they're the standout so far in this tournament. Obviously, certain players haven't played twice yet. We've only seen Harry Kane play once, for example, but certainly those two in terms of certainly looking like and Mbappe as well, to be fair, but 5 goals each for Haaland. And bear in mind this time a week ago, Haaland hadn't even scored a World Cup goal yet. So his first 2 games, in fact, he's got his 5 goals across his first 2 World Cup games. Seriously impressive stuff. And for the rest of the game, they was able to see it out there when they had the chance at Senegal, but ultimately they didn't do it. And I do think as well, there's been a lot of criticism of particularly Koulibaly, the fact they selected Koulibaly. A lot of people saying he's past his best, not up to speed anymore. And there's certainly, he's not been at the top level for 3 years or so. I've sort of spoke highly of his experience in previous videos that he could bring to the Senegal squad, but ultimately, if he's not up to pace, he's not up to pace, and that is going to be costly against, especially when you look at the attacking quality that France and Norway have got. You can sort of see why they might have had an issue. But as for Norway, qualified for the knockout stage, fantastic story, and the celebrations at full time were just from Norway were crazy with the players and the fans. Some of the most crazy I've ever actually seen on a football pitch. Actually, it was just outstanding scenes. But yeah, Norway and France, seriously impressive. I'm really good, looking forward to the game between those two.